I need you to hate so I can use you for your energy.
This is real sales talk. Real sales advice from real sales practitioners. Giving you tips on how to dominate your sales quota are your co-hosts, Sean Mitchell and Phil Keene. This episode is brought to you by Convertist. We are incredibly excited to have partnered together with Convertist, which helps SaaS and services run managed outbound campaigns for teams looking to drive new pipeline opportunities. For teams targeting mid-size and enterprise deals, Convertist integrates with CRMs like Salesforce to uncover actionable data in their sales processes, which enables them to find areas of improvement and double down on strategies that actually work. Benchmark the lead generation performance expected of a seasoned SDR and identify actionable areas of improvement in a sales process, all out of one place with Convertist. For teams looking to measure and enhance their performance of their sales funnel and architect a better revenue engine, cast an application to join the Convertist Slack group. It's at convertist.com/Slack. That's Convertist, convertist.com/Slack, SLACK.
What is going on, Real Sales Talk family? We are back with episode 3 in season 9, and we have Sean Sheppard from GrowthX here. And he has, I actually did not catch this at AAISP Leadership Summit this year, but I heard it was a great keynote. And we started getting in some topic, and then Sean and I think we have some. We just chatted really briefly. I think this is going to be an awesome show. Sean, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Phil.
Yeah, well, Sean's trying to close deals right now, and I'm wearing the close the deal shirt in his honor. So I think there's that. Hopefully he gets that deal done so he can't join us, regretfully, for sure. This is going to be a great conversation. So Sean, let's start. Tell me your background. We started getting into good conversation, so I wanted to make sure we recorded it. But tell me your background first, and then we'll go from there.
Sure. This is my fifth startup that I've been a founder or co-founder of, and I've had 3 successful exits and a valuable learning experience along the way. And I've always been a selling founder, and it was never intentional, but it's just sort of what it turned out to be. And along the way, I've learned what I think are the right ways to take products to market and do it in the most effective way possible. And as a result, I'm now in a position as a founding partner in the GrowthX family of companies, where we invest in early stage companies. We help them grow through sales. We have an academy to develop amazing salespeople to work in those companies. And we have a consulting arm that helps big companies work with small ones and learn how to think and act like startups so that they can continue to maintain their competitive advantage in the marketplace. And really, it's more of an ecosystem, Phil, that's designed to support entrepreneurship and innovation in any given market. And now I'm just focused exclusively on trying to help other people be successful.
Yeah, so that's interesting. I think just a good portion of our audience, we have a lot of entrepreneurs that are listening. So growthx.com, growthxacademy.com are 2 places you can go find resources.
gxacademy.com, yes. But
GX
it's linked.
Academy.
Correct.
Great. So yeah, definitely go check that out. We'll link it at the bottom of the show notes as well, so you guys can check that out. It sounds interesting, but let's hit the middle topic you talked about, which is getting really good salespeople and getting good reps and teaching them the fundamentals of process and sales. But you and I started getting into the dialogue. It started to get really interesting, so I wanted to stop and make sure we hit record so everybody else can hear the same things that you're dropping from knowledge. The myth of what's going on in the sales world and what a salesperson is, like, it sounds like it pisses you off. I mean, let's get into it. So let's just start at that high level and we'll go down.
Well, it always has. I call it the myth of the salesman. We're conditioned by society from, maybe from the beginning of the industrial age to think of sales as dirty, as negative, of snake oil, of used cars. We're caricatured in the arts through Willy Loman and the death of a salesman. And that's perpetuated in the consumer experience with retail sales professionals who are typically poorly trained and sort of forced into transactional behavior. And that just continues to perpetuate the myth. But the reality is that when you, selling is an incredibly noble profession. Nothing happens until someone sells something. The top business leaders in the world will all tell you that they value nothing more than their sales organization, most of which will also tell you that sales solves most of their business problems. And yet, we're treated like second-class citizens. And the reality is that as a profession, it's truly one of the great professions. It's one of the highest average earned incomes of any white-collar role. It has the lowest divorce rate. I'm sure many people didn't know that. And it has one of the highest job satisfaction rates of any role out there. 50% of college graduates end up in sales-related roles with no background or experience or context walking in. As a result, we still have endemically high turnover, over 60% across the industry. We're typically left at the mercy of learning and developing and growing of the companies that we go to work for, who still typically spend most of their training budget on company and product, not on how to sell and who to sell to, and the things that matter most, that make most people successful in sales. And so, as a proud sales professional, I want to change all of that. And it starts at the education system and at the societal level. We have over 6,000 institutions of higher learning, purportedly, in North America alone. Less than 100 have any kind of formal sales education or programming associated with it. Now, 20 years ago, only maybe 10 did. So it's moving in the right direction, but we have so far to go to get where we need to go. And that's because of the typical enlightened age ivory tower blowhards that run these universities that view sales as a second-class role. When the reality is that we create the value in the marketplace. We drive that engine. And every year, colleges come out and say that their graduates are prepared for the workforce. Yet, when you poll them, 9 out of 10 employers disagree. There's a real gap in what we teach, how we educate, and the skills necessary to make an impact in the world, especially in the world of sales, which is why we launched GrowthX Academy as a way to help close that gap. I don't care about things like accreditation and what universities think. The ultimate accrediting body in the world is the employer. And the employer is the one that's going to tell us the skills that we need if we just pay attention to them. And we've got a system that's pretty, well, frankly, it's ancient. You know, our entire education system is 150 years old and hasn't changed much. In fact, if you fell asleep 150 years ago and you woke up today and you looked around, the only thing that you would recognize is a classroom. And the only thing that creates, the only common bond two humans have in a classroom typically is their age and their location. It has nothing to do with their learning style, what they should be doing, and how they should be doing it. Our classrooms were developed as a way to take farmers off of farms and train them to work in factories. That's why we teach classes one at a time. That's why we have desks in rows. That's why we have school bells to mimic factory whistles. And all of that needs to change because we're now entering what's called the fourth industrial revolution, the innovation economy. By 2020, the skills that are going to be most valuable and required are the ones that we learn in sales, the ones that many great salespeople are naturally attuned to, the soft skills. They're called soft skills as if they're second class, when really they're the hardest ones to master, Phil. I think you know that. So I want to elevate sales to its rightful place in society alongside being a doctor or an engineer or a lawyer. Well, not a lawyer. But yeah, I think you get my point.
Yeah, definitely. So let's pull it a little bit further. So thinking about like an SDR role, which is typically where we're going to hire out of college. So that takes a very different skill set than, say, an account executive for anybody that's playing the acronym game at home. If you're not familiar with SDR, it means sales development rep. It's typically entry level. It's prospecting. It's grunt work. It's making phone calls, trying to figure out how to set a meeting. And it's in my opinion, right, should be the most valued position in almost every organization. Because if you do it well, you can explode the growth of your company. Like if you do that well, if you can set meetings and you can get people to pay attention to you, like it's critical. But how do you set them up for success for a role like that, which in common terms of sales, it's very different, right? It's not closing. You're not closing a deal. You're not getting revenue technically off of those people. And then one thing I've seen as an issue at the marketplace with that type of role is that we do a very poor job at painting why these skill sets matter and why you should do it for a long enough period of time and why you should be patient to do this well. That it's going to matter for the rest of your life. Like if you're a founding person of a company, the ability to prospect is massively critical. So if you ever want to be a CEO of a company one day, I hope you can prospect of some sorts, because you're going to do it with pitching investors, and you're going to do it with there's so much more that you need to understand. So let's go back down from that transition from college to sales, and then entering that SDR role and some of the things we fundamentally do wrong.
Yeah, let's start with the fundamentals, right? Let's back up for a moment. We call it a sales development rep, and it's really not a sales role. It's a marketing and research role. And it eventually evolves into handing it to a sales professional, the account executive that you talked about. But ultimately, sales development is market development. And it's heavy research focused. And the skills that matter most, and in the order of priority that I'm going to lay them out, are the same that I would provide or offer to anybody who's coming in at an entry level or anybody who's been in sales for 30 years. It starts with business acumen. Understanding how businesses work, how they make money, how the people inside the organizations that you're trying to impact and help are measured, so that you can demonstrate value in a very concrete way, is the most important skill that I think anyone in sales and marketing related roles needs to acquire. Understanding of selling is helping. So if you agree with me on that and you believe that our job is to make other people successful, we need to understand what success looks like for them. Not just as well as they do, but hopefully better. In fact, the Corporate Executive Board's research every year, when polling enterprise buyers, asks them what do they value most out of their sales partners and vendor partners. Those that can add value, those that make them think about things they haven't thought about, those that understand their business seemingly as well as they do, if not better, is at the top of their list. So that starts with business acumen. So understanding how a business model works, how a company makes money, how every individual role, function, and organization that you are trying to help, what they do and how you can help them, is the first and most important thing. And at the Academy, we teach a way to do business modeling that within 5 to 10 or 15 minutes of research, you can quickly size up how you can help someone and define the value hypothesis. So that's number one. Number two is market acumen. And by market acumen, I mean, let's roll down to the industry or the vertical or the sector that your businesses are in. So if you're selling a fintech product into banks, you'd best become a banking industry expert as quickly as you can in all areas and aspects. You should be living, eating, breathing, sleeping, drinking banking every single day, such to the degree that if you went to a cocktail party with a bunch of iBankers and analysts in the Upper East Side of Manhattan, or out in the Hamptons, or right here in the financial district in San Francisco where I sit in Wall Street West, they will think you are one of them. They will be shocked to find out that you're not, because you have such a solid understanding of what they do that they can't tell the difference, because that's where the rapport and the trust comes from, and that's where the clarity around how you can be helpful comes from. So now, okay, great. We've got the first two things, business acumen. I know how business models work and run and how the people make money and how they're measured and what they care about. I also understand their problems. I also understand how to deliver that value, and I also understand how to show it to them. Great, now I know my market. I'm a fintech guru. I know everything there is about financial services and how my technology might be able to help them be more successful. The third and most important thing after that is you have to be able to articulate that in the world, but if you can't communicate it, it doesn't matter. So communication skills is the third most important thing that everyone in a sales-related role needs to master. And that doesn't just mean, can I talk a good game like you and I, but can I write one? Can I articulate? Can I make the complex understandable? Those are the things that matter most. And if you can communicate synchronously, asynchronously, verbally, non-verbally, in a very effective way, in a concise and simple manner to executives, using something like the pyramid principle to pitch your deals to C-suite, which is an article I've written that I teach about, all the way down to can you tell a story through content? Can you present effectively in front of a group? Do you look the part? Because communication also means dressing for the part. It doesn't just mean talking, gesticulating, writing, and presenting. So everything we do communicates. And as my father once said to me, people will always think you're smarter and more valuable than you are if you're an effective communicator. And I think he meant that as a compliment, but I wasn't sure.
So I love it. I mean, I hope he meant it as a compliment. I'm going to go with it and say that he did mean it as a compliment. So that will help. So we actually have an episode for everybody that's listening. If you go back, Joe Bisogna talks about how to build business acumen, and I thought it was a really strong episode. I took more notes on that episode than any other episode that we've had so far. But let's go to number 2 with that. I like to go a little bit deeper, get a little more tactical. So I want to teach somebody an industry knowledge. Let's say they're an SDR. So fintech was the example that you gave. I want them to understand financial industry. What are the things that I have them go do to start acquiring that industry knowledge?
Well, so they have to understand the value of being resourceful as a human. They have to be able to manage their time, and they have to be able to start self-educating. Education is what people do to you. Learning is what you do for yourself, right? So they have to become great learners. So it starts with an attitude that we actually apply as the 4 pillars here at GrowthX when we think about how we educate and develop humans. It starts with mindset. Adopting a growth mindset, getting your mind in the right place to recognize that rejection is a word that we take out of our vocabulary and replace it with feedback. That we don't want to be a know-it-all, we want to be learn-it-alls. That every opportunity, every part of our life and experience on this earth is available for continued development and growth. And so we want to become passionate about learning. So becoming a great learner and developing a growth mindset is number 1. So what's a tactic someone can use? I'm glad you asked, Sean. A tactic someone can use is what's called the Feynman technique, Feynman. And it's actually a very simple and elegant technique developed by a guy, yes, named Feynman, about to become an expert at anything, you need to be able to teach it back to someone else effectively. So take the attitude of my job is to learn about a specific topic and be able to educate others on it. So it takes you through a simple process of going and absorbing the content, trying to understand the concept, developing the knowledge and competency and proficiency to be able to teach it back, and then actually apply the attempt of planning to teach it back. And then the things that you don't have proficiency in, those are the gaps. You identify the gaps and you become proficient in those things until you've closed all the gaps and you have a complete and comprehensive way of teaching back what you've learned. And you can rapidly iterate on that process in real time with every topic that you go into. And the beauty of applying that technique is we have such a wealth of resources available to us. One of the biggest fails that I see in sales organizations, whether it's at the SDR level or down at the bottom of the funnel, is research. We don't do our research. We don't put the work in. We don't put the work into understanding the businesses of our prospects. We don't put the work into understanding the market that they're in and who their customers are and how they help them and how they're measured. We don't put the work into refining a clear value proposition through communication about not just what we do, but what we do for you, right? That's the value, leading with that. So we need to take on a research mindset and go slow to go fast. My first enterprise sales job, I was supposed to do 110 calls a day and 4 hours of talk time. I never hit, or rarely hit my my dials. Now, there's going to be a lot of sales leaders out there that are about ready to get pissed off at me for saying this, but there's a story behind this. But I always hit my numbers. Not only did I hit my numbers, I became the top rep in that organization inside of 18 months in a company with 800 reps. And what I did, though, was I spent my time doing research. And this was 20 years ago. and it wasn't as easy to do research on the internet as it is today. I read quarterly reports and 10Ks. I did research on finding out what the C-suite strategic initiatives were for the next quarter, year, 3 years, and 5 years. And then I did my best to figure out how I can connect the dots with my technology to those strategic initiatives. And if I couldn't connect the dots, then I either didn't do enough research, I couldn't articulate it well enough, or more likely, it wasn't a fit.
Yeah.
And so I got to move on to the next one. So I stayed away from those other things so that when I did reach out to a company, I had a story. I've hypothesized this value based on the research I've done, and I think I can help you in these ways. Can we have a conversation to see if that's the case? And this was before appropriate person campaigns and cold emails and all that crap. So this was phone call mapping, but it was the same concept, right? And I got higher conversion rates, faster sales cycles, and bigger deals than anyone because of it. But it used to irritate the crap out of leadership because it didn't fit their template. And I understand why those templates exist, because you can't trust everyone to perform at the rate of the top 10%. So you have to have those kinds of controls in place. It makes sense, and it creates a tone, and I get it. And activity always breeds opportunity, which always should breed results, and that doesn't go away. But I do believe we can conduct our research at scale with diligence in a similar fashion to get better results. But it's on us. It's on the salespeople. I'm sick and tired of, in this day and age, getting emails that have nothing to do with me, that people have not done their research, that I'm all over the place. All you got to do is Google me. You can find out anything you want to know about Sean Sheppard and then use that to your advantage to get my attention. I'm baffled by the 9 out of 10 that I get that don't. I've got people trying to recruit me for software engineering jobs. What the hell is that? I can't even spell HTML. There's no part of my past or history that would indicate that I want a software engineering job. Or how about this HR benefits package for your fund? We're a 5-person general partnership. They don't understand how venture capital funds work. So there's all sorts of things that just cite to me the spray and pray and the shotgun bullshit is still out there, and it hurts the sales professional's brand in the marketplace when people do that. And I would, if it was a few bad actors, I wouldn't be complaining, but it's not.
It's a lot. It's a large majority. It's
the majority, which creates the opportunity. That problem, out of that problem comes the opportunity to separate yourself. And that's what the innovation economy is all about. We're walking into a world where the robots are going to take the low-level jobs. And if you want to separate yourself, you need to do the work. And that means to develop yourself as a person. And that's the second arc of this, the mindset, and then it's mastery. And mastery means you can become a master of anything with deliberate intent and practice. It starts with knowledge, competency, proficiency, and ultimately mastery. 10 years and 10,000 hours, as Malcolm Gladwell says in Outliers. And with that, it means that there's no distinction between personal and professional development in a human-centered role. If you develop yourself as a person, you can develop yourself as a professional. So it's back, I put it back on the sales industry and profession to say, we need to professionalize ourselves, but it begins with you.
And I think there's something to the 10,000 hour thing is always been intriguing to me, and I fully believe like the more you do something, the more pattern recognition you have, the easier you can understand something and how to overcome things. I also think there's a second side of that often gets overlooked, which is if you have to firmly understand what perfect looks like, what vision of good looks like, because if you don't understand what you're supposed to do, if you're doing the wrong thing for 10,000 hours, like you just became an expert at doing something completely incorrect. So I think there's some of that, like you want to make sure you're doing it right. And I think some of that means getting a mentor, right? Yes. Having someone that's a critical coach that will tell you, hey, you're not doing it right, or hey, you should say it this way instead. And everybody has to have a coach. And I think it goes back to earlier that we were talking about like the institutional side of it. Like, we need to invest in these young kids that are in college that are trying to start a professional career, which, by the way, sales is 30% of most workforces. So let's invest in a place they're actually going to go work at and get them to build skills early that are the right skills. And I think that's something that we do a really poor job at today.
I'm glad you brought that up. It's almost like this was rehearsed, but it's not, audience, I promise you. I talked about the 4 pillars. So far, I've mentioned 2. Mindset and mastery. The third one is community. And community means getting mentorship, finding people in your life that can help you get where you want to go. What's the definition of a mentor? It's someone that's already accomplished what you want to accomplish. But you need to get clear about what it is you want to accomplish, and you need to show that you are desirous to put the work in a humble way to get there. Yesterday I played golf with one of our investors who's a dear friend and a very successful businessman, and not in technology, who said to me that his entire life he's been willing to work twice as hard as everyone else for half the respect and recognition. And that was his key to success. And even to this day, he's pushing 65 years old. He gets up, he goes to work at 5 a.m. and works all day. And yesterday he felt like he could get away from 2 o'clock to 7 o'clock to play golf with me. But he felt uncomfortable the entire time, like I do, because he's always on. He's always thinking about how he can be better, and he's constantly learning. He listens to audiobooks to and from work like I do every day. We're constantly sending each other the latest book that we've read that we think is really cool. Certainly reading a book for me is a lot easier than reading a green based on the way I played yesterday. But he's a good example of what I mean by that. You put the work in. So he is more than willing to mentor people. In fact, one of his biggest frustrations he was telling me about yesterday was he was mentoring someone that wasn't putting the work in and was coming up with every excuse in the world, and he was feeling terrible about it. And I said to him, you shouldn't feel terrible about it. You need to cut that person loose. They're not committed. They came to you for mentorship. You've told them to do these things. They're not doing them. They're wasting your time. And that's what people need. So they need a community around them of people that can mentor, that can support, that can hire, that can refer, that can help each other out. Because it takes a village to raise any human.
Yeah. So and a kind of in the same light there. So I remember being 19 and I had a mentor when I was working in retail, and he sat down with me and he said, listen, he's like, I know that you try hard. He's like, but I need more out of you. But at the same time, it's no one cares about your growth but yourself. It's like,
ultimately, that is absolutely true. My dad always used to say, people think less of you than you actually believe.
Yeah.
Just kind of a double meaning. Again, not sure if he was complimenting me or teaching me, but
we're gonna go with compliment here. We're gonna build you up in this show,
yeah.
Sean.
And then that just leads into the 4th pillar, which is career. So it's mindset, mastery, career, and community. And the career is all about creating that path for yourself, designing your future self. There's some studies and research done at Rotterdam University where they actually implemented a process for incoming freshmen to write out a reconciliation of their past to date and then design their future self and how they think they can get there. And they've done it with every student now for a couple of years, and over 2,000 students. They have increased the average GPA of those students by 30%, and they've reduced the dropout rate by 50% by creating a program where one designs their future self in a very deliberate way and spends the time on it.
Well, I think it's the millennial problem, right? All of us are self-centered and we want to do all these things, but in all actuality, we just want purpose. So,
well, I would argue, look, I guess I'm a Gen Xer, and raised by baby boomers. My grandparents, who were the greatest generation, bitched about the baby boomers. The baby boomers bitched about us. We're going to bitch about you. I think it's a rite of passage. And it's just part of the hazing ritual of generational growth. Millennials are, I agree, I think they are more self-aware, which is a good thing. I think they're more mindful, which is a good thing. I think they crave quality over quantity, which I think is also a good thing. But also, how they communicate it can be to their detriment. And I think that they can work on that. Because when you do find your purpose in life, I don't think you need balance. My wife disagrees, but
Well, it depends on what you define balance, though, because balance in some people's mind is like, I'm happy when I go to work and I thoroughly enjoy my job and I like solving complex problems and I'm into that. And that's actually why I love sales is like sales to me is a giant puzzle piece of all the things I'm putting together. And I enjoy that thought process of figuring out how to get from point A to point B and everything in between that. So
And you're absolutely right. It is a problem-solving business. Too many people talk about their product. What they really should be doing is identifying, understanding, and solving someone else's problem. Nobody cares about your product. They don't give two shits. What they care about is their problems. And they're interested if they think that there's an opportunity for you to help them solve them. That's it. That's all. So stop talking about your product. Start focusing on their problem and how you can solve it. That's also part of business acumen and communication, business market and communication. And there's a ton of sales models and methodologies and processes and techniques and management and leadership and operations. That's all, and whether we call it ops or enablement or productivity, whatever. All of those things are important as well, and they all support this. But none of it begins without those first three things. Without the business acumen, without the market acumen, without the communications, without the right behaviors, with the right attitudes around mindset, mastery, career, and community.
awesome, Sean. This has been great. We're running up on time. So what I want to do is we're going to do a quick rapid fire session. We're going to break this and we're actually going to put half of it on YouTube or the part of it on YouTube for the quick 3 questions we ask you. But before we do that, for the people that are listening on the podcast, how can we find you?
Well, again, growthx.com, gxacademy.com for the educational side. Sean at growthx.com if you want to email me directly. I'm probably asking for it, but I don't care. If you love sales and you want to be better, I want to know you.
But don't automate it. Don't automate it because I'm gonna give Sean full reign right now that if you automate it, he can call you out on it.
Yeah, and believe me, I know automation when I see it. But that's another thing. Authenticity at scale is very hard. I have my own show called How to Talk to Humans, and I had John Miller, the founder of Engagio and co-founder of Marketo prior to that, on stage with me at the NASDAQ Entrepreneur Center talking for 2 hours about it because he wants to scale authenticity, and I don't think it's possible. So that's a really, really good thing. But on Twitter, I'm at Sean A. Sheppard, and I tweet a lot, and that's fun. You can find me on LinkedIn. We've got a shit ton of content out there, great blog on Academy with sales resources, and I'm happy to help anyone that is asking for help in a very authentic and sincere way.
All right, so we're going to break into the rapid fire. Everybody on the podcast, thank you for listening. We'll see you in the next episode. But now jumping into it, Sean. All right, 3 rapid fire questions. So tell me what habits do you have every day that you do that help you get started?
Well, the first one I had to learn, and my wife helped me with it tremendously, is I don't touch my phone until I'm ready to start my workday, because it will just distract the hell out of me. So I can get everything done and then move into my workday. I also recognize that the 90 minutes of optimal brain activity is between 7 a.m. and 9 a.m. So I do my best to get most of the most important thinking done and the high value activities addressed during that period of time.
Awesome. That's a good one. So we talked a little bit about early stage. Hey, I'm just graduating college and getting into the next role. What's the first book that I just graduated college I should go read?
To Sell is Human by Dan Pink. I think it sets the stage for the fact that everybody's in sales and that we have to dispel this myth of the salesman that I was talking about before. Now, 1 in 6 professionals is in a sales-related role, and it's actually closer to like 1 in 4 or 1 in 3 are in a human-centered role. There's no such thing as B2B or B2C to me. It's H to H. And human behavior doesn't change. Technology is constantly moving, but human behavior does not. And so understanding human behaviors and understanding how the brain works, to me, are the most critical elements to that.
Great answer there. All right, so last one. You mentioned that I can Google you and I can make it authentic, but I'm going to give them a little something extra. If I don't Google, or if I, tell me something about you, Sean, that I can't find on Google or LinkedIn or on the internet.
Good question. Let's see. I was born in Italy. I'm a Navy brat. I've lived all over the world as a result of that. I have some very unique perspectives on life as society, and I've made it my mission to support entrepreneurship and innovation through what we're doing here at GrowthX and make that my legacy.
Awesome. Well, we really appreciate your time, Sean. Again, we can find you. You go to growthx.com, gxacademy.com. Add you on LinkedIn, maybe with the
absolutely. I was like the 7,000th member of LinkedIn. I've got like 15,000 connections, and I love everyone.
Awesome. So add him on LinkedIn, Sean at GrowthX. If you have a really killer, awesome email, make sure you're there. Great way to connect with them there. But everybody, we appreciate you on Real Sales Talk and Real Sales Talk family for listening, and we will catch you on the next one.
Thanks, man.
Thanks for listening to Real Sales Talk, and a big thank you to our sponsor, Convertist. If you enjoyed this episode, go write a review on iTunes or any other podcasting platform.